Welcome back to PSC's Tech Bytes. Today I want to talk with you about the AdaptiveCardHost control that is an open source control which is part of the PnP React Controls family. It was created by my friend Fabio Franzini, and kudos to Fabio for that. And you can use it in SharePoint Framework, for example, to create the UI of a web part, or of a dialog of an extension, or of a Themes tab created with SPFx. When you use it, you can define a theme, or you can inherit a theme from the context, and you can use the SharePoint theme, or the theme's default, dark, or high contrast theme. And it is a really powerful control that will allow you to reuse UI elements in multiple solutions. So, like always, let me move to the demo environment and let me show you how to use that in practice. So, this is the official documentation page of the AdaptiveCardHost control, and here you can find plenty of information about how to use it. Right now, in this demo, I simply want to host this sample adaptive card provided by the AdaptiveCards.io site of Microsoft, and specifically I want to show you how you can use it in the UI of a web part. So, in order to use the AdaptiveCardHost control, first of all, you will need to do an npm install of the PnP/SPFx-controls-react, and you can save the exact version of the library in your SPFx project. Once you have done that, you will be able, using Visual Studio Code, for example, to edit the React component for rendering your web part, and you can simply import the AdaptiveCardHost and eventually the additional interfaces or types available in the AdaptiveCardHost group of types. And once you have done that, in the rendering of your React component, you can simply rely on the AdaptiveCardHost control. Well, by doing that, you have to provide the card, the JSON of the card, and here, for example, I have a sample card.json file, which is precisely this one, and it is exactly what we have in the Microsoft AdaptiveCards.io website, so precisely this JSON. And I stored it in a JSON file so that by using, for example, the require syntax, I can load the JSON into my project. And then I will provide it as the content of the card property. Then I can do the same for the data, where I can eventually read the data from a JSON file again. And here I have a sample JSON file that I created based on the sample that we have again on AdaptiveCard.io. And then I'm providing it as the content of the data property of my AdaptiveCardHost. And take a note that we need to provide $root as the container of the actual data of our complex object that we provide for data binding. Then we can define, for example, a theme if we want, and as you can see here, we can play with the SharePoint theme or with the Themes theme, the dark one and the high contrast one. And we can eventually also get the notification of an invoke of an action inside the UI of our card. So this card has a button for more info, and by clicking on that one, the onInvokeAction method will be invoked, and here we simply make an alert of the JSON stringify of the action object that we receive. And the same applies for the error. In case of any error, we have a function that we will trigger, and we will simply make an alert of the error message. So this is the basic implementation of my sample solution. If I go back to my browser, I can come here, and here you can see the actual web part in action. And if I click here, we can see the information in the action object provided to the onInvokeAction method. Now, let's say that we want to do something more. So, for example, rather than loading the data from a static JSON file, we want to load the data from an object. So, there could be, let me comment this line, there could be a kind of backend service to retrieve a complex JSON object which will represent my data, so that we can build it, define all of the properties, and still do the data binding. So, let me save and refresh the web part in the web part workbench of SharePoint Online, and you will see that we will have exactly the same behavior as before, but now with an in-memory object that we created through our code. So let me refresh this page, and as you can see, we still get exactly the same result as before. But as I said, we can do more. For example, we can rely on a completely custom adapted card JSON. Here I'm using a form that we already seen in one of my previous videos about how to collect data using adaptive cards. And here I'm simply collecting a set of choices about a menu, so the main course, the dessert, and the beverages for a menu. So I'm going to use this custom card in the UI of my component, so right here. And I'm also going to replace the data that I'm binding with a custom object which I will use in the data binding of my custom adaptive card, through which I will provide just the descriptive fields like the title, the subtitle, and the description. Now we can do even more. So in the invoke action method, rather than just showing the action by itself, we can say, okay, if the action will be an action to submit my data, let's get and create a menu object based on the action data, meaning based on the data that will be provided right here in the adaptive card definition. And let's use it, for example, just to make yet another alert, but it could be an object that then we will pass back to a backend API by REST to store the menu choice of our user. So let me save this updated web part and let's see how it behaves in the web part workbench. It's a matter of few seconds to complete the packaging and the reload of the solution. And once it will be ready, we can see the actual result in the browser. And here we are. So let me go back, let me refresh this page, and now we can see a completely different adaptive card. And as you can see, we simply updated the JSON template of the card. We did not update the actual code of the web part. And if I go to preview, I can choose that I want to have fish for lunch with an apple pie, and why not with a beer, which is always my choice. Book your lunch, and I can get the main course, the dessert, and the beverages selected by the user in the UI. And the whole design of the UI, all the fields, all the requirements will be defined in the JSON of the adaptive card rather than in the React component that you are defining. So, as I share with you, you can easily reuse the same templates across multiple solutions, and you have a better UI and a more consistent UI in the Microsoft 365 offering. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. And remember, subscribe to this channel. Thank you.